everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be reapproaching blue-white synthesizing repurposing bay, if you want to call it that. But it is a blue-white artifact deck that gets a lot of value off of using Simulacrum Synthesizer. It says whenever an artifact you control with mana value 3 or greater enters, we get to make a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. And that token gets a 1/1 for each artifact you control. Now, that's pretty easy thanks to Aetherdrift, because we get a lot more artifacts that we're allowed to play because of the possibilities of repurposing bay. A new card, the main kind of feature card in this deck. I do play 3 because in clusters it can kind of be bad, just for the fact that like we need cards to actually do something on ETB a lot of times in best of 1 standard. But repurposing bay says 2 mana, tap, sacrifice another artifact. Search your library for an artifact card with mana value 1 plus the sacrifice artifact's mana value. Put that card on the battlefield and shuffle. Activate only as a sorcery. Quickly put, if we sacrifice 2 mana artifact, we grab a 3 mana, so on and so forth. And that's why our 3 mana cards lead directly into only 2 4 mana cards, which leads into 1 5 mana card into 1 6 mana card. I think in best of 1, this card is definitely worth playing, because you'll see in one of the games, we present 4 constructs on a turn. They get board wipe. We do it again immediately the next turn thanks to this card and some other cards. They board wipe me again, and then I do it again. So blue-white there in that matchup was unable to keep up with us by presenting massive kind of lethal threats over and over again thanks to this card. And also counter spells get turned off because our spells are uncounterable. Outside of that, we're ready to battle aggro in this variation, with kind of Rides In being a card that we get to play, a card I've overlooked in the past because it was 5 mana and a common. I was like, yeah, it's probably a drafted all-star or a limited all-star if you would. But then we get to play Glass Casket, Spring-Loaded Trap, Upbraided Net to kind of slow your opponent down if they're relying on one big creature, and then these snares as well. And then we oftentimes have a little Thran Spider or Synthesizer to come in and kind of make big constructs that can protect us from like larger creature decks like Dinos, for example, if that happens to show up. Spoiler, it doesn't. But what helps unlock this deck that is a card that we haven't been able to use until now? Let me rearrange this a little bit so it's a little bit more appealing to look at as I was kind of throwing stuff around. That is the Enigma Jewel. Enigma Jewel kind of being played in a couple of variations, but in this deck, it's more for its mana ability that we want, and the fact that we can tap it, add 2 colorless, spin this mana only to activate abilities. We get to kind of turn that on very quickly with a card like Collector's Vault. I'm not playing the Maze Mind Tome in this deck. You could go 1-1 or play 2 Maze Mind Tomes, or maybe even like cut one of these to play an additional one if you want, or even maybe a Thran Spider. Kind of up to you. It's your deck. Do what you want. But I only played 2 Vaults because the main purpose for Enigma Jewel is to kind of come in early and then attack, be able to activate the Repurposing Bay on the turn we play Repurposing Bay, giving it, like, taking its downside and getting rid of it. But also the Enigma Jewel happens to be an artifact, which helps us with the Simulacrum Synthesizer constructs that we make early. Other than that, I said that like 40 times, I'm sorry. We're ready to go. That's all I kind of got. Let's dive into the games, see how they go. We have a very solid record today, playing a total of 6 matches in this video, and we'll see how that is. I hope you all enjoy it, and let's go game. For the most part, I feel like to keep, we are missing a land, which is definitely going to be the hardest part of this hand. But when we find it, our opponent's on the maul, we're on the play. And upkeep, are they still deciding? I don't actually know. Okay, they were still deciding. All right, cool. Sometimes it's a little weird, some of the pauses you get in the beginning. It's like, do they have a pre-game action? Is that like the type of game we're in? This artifact, exile target creature and opponent. No. We do find a land anyway, so that's obviously pretty nice. Double checking. Target creature. Yeah, sure. So I'm just going to start off by putting a Synthesizer in play if I can. Knowing this matchup right now, we're against, I think, maybe the Cannon deck. Unsure. But we are in the mirror opponent. So we'll play the mirror accordingly. Online permanent opponent control. So we might fire this off and hit the Enigma Jewel. two cards in general that work well with each other there, but I'm just gonna let that go. I want to find land, I think. But yeah, we have a snare. They most likely can't play the same thing. So our snare is going to have to come in and exile the synthesizer that they're making, I guess. Even though repurposing bay is going to allow them to go kind of through the loop. Unless they get something goofy here. I was going to say, barring a weird play, untap land would be best, because then we can play a fabrication foundry and then also play our snare, which would be great. We find a repurposing bay ourselves, so we just opt for snare. Take synthesizer. We're in a mirror that I never thought we'd ever be in. But our opponent with an Enigma Jewel and hitting land drops is a little ahead, but I think that's what they kept on top. I think they also missed the land drop last turn. Yeah, so I missed land. I was on the play. Maybe I just missed land drop. I actually don't know. What do we have going on? It's a little weird. Do we sacrifice the Enigma Jewel? Do we not? What 2 mana permanent do we get? It's definitely a tough one. Second repurposing bay. Sacrifice repurposing bay. Go get 4 mana artifact. Not sure what that will be. For me here, it's 100% just play our repurposing bay, I think. Oh yeah, take a look. Take a look. I'm not sure you're gonna like what you see. They'll definitely throw a repurposing bay out of our hand, I believe. I can't imagine much else kind of maintaining anything here. Oh, they take nothing. Okay, fantastic. Let's go 4. This is what, 3 or less, so that's obviously low, unfortunate. This, in a way, doesn't necessarily replace itself, but it does give us a little bit of value. Then we go right into the repurposing bay, so we get a very explosive turn. Attack for 6. They block, they choose not to. Most likely going to go get a 5 mana artifact, I would have to guess. Which can be a Mightstone, Weakstone, Brawl 2. That's the hard part about them having Enigma Jewel. They effectively have a free activation of repurposing bay every turn and their mana to work with, whereas if we want to activate repurposing bay, it will require our mana. Now, having a fabrication foundry is going to help us, in which they don't get to play that card, which is obviously nice for us. But anytime we find an Enigma Jewel now, the hardest part is that we don't have it enter untapped. All right, so we were right. I would assume this is grab what we think. Oh, no, they're on the Gearhulk. Okay. They're going to get the synthesizer back. Fair enough, opponent. Fair enough. Better make enough here, though. Because, alright, cool. 1 mana. Do they have enough to stop us from doing anything? Do we draw? Or do they have? Grim Bauble, just to increase the artifact count? Sure. Now it's up to 7. They have to target regardless. It doesn't matter. Another Vault. Honestly, not the worst thing in the world. That gives me Repurposing Bay, activating Repurposing Bay, and I most likely can remove both of these. How do I get there, though? And also increase my artifact count to enough? Unsure. White. Colorless. 1 blue. Play Repurposing Bay. Take another synthesizer. That's a 7/7. This has double strike. Last Casket can answer this. But what do I have to answer this? Unsure right now. 4 mana, anything? No. It would just be a Mightstone, Weakstone. At 5? Maybe we just go for bigger and better. Oh, Braden, that's not a bad option. That doesn't necessarily get us here either. Double Striker, I'm not super worried about. World Waker Helm would be good. Yeah, let's go for this. Just let them kind of have to answer the board. So here is lethal regardless. Now the thing is, they get to go in this turn with 2 Repurposing Bay activations, and it's not particularly close. Double block is actually good for us. That means their artifact counts down. The board's loaded in our favor. However, the other opposite thing is I have 2 synthesizers in comparison to their 1. And I do have a glass casket which can exile a construct token. I don't know if double block was the move. I think you have to leave something behind in attack. Or like kind of threaten something. And with this being 5 mana, I don't know if they play a 6 mana artifact. Unstable Glyph Bridge is not a card that's in their book, but that's also a card you have to cast, which is why we don't actually play it in our list. If it was kind of whenever it entered the battlefield, we'll feel fine. We'll do a sacrifice creature, and if they make us sacrifice another creature, we'll do an untapped one. In case our opponent has some kind of like destroy all tap creatures, destroy all untapped creatures. For example, like for us, we could in theory play Split Up, but we don't play that either. Third Repurposing Bay. Unfortunate. That's honestly one of the reasons I went down on the card by a little. It's not much, but they have 7 damage they can take here. I will play the glass casket and let them know that the game's over, so that I can just exile this. Then we have double attack. I can't see a line in which they can stop this. That is a good game. Much love, opponent. We just been on the opposite side of a coin here, and it's unfortunate for sure. Just let it go through. Kind of evaluated what happened with the glass casket, but it's mana 3 or less, not power 3 or less. So come away with the win, and we move on. All right, well, we have pretty much a fantastic hand, if I had to say so. Get an Enigma Jewel down. We have like a removal spell if we need to hold it up on turn 2. If not, we'll obviously go for our little tap land here, but I'd much rather get Enigma Jewel down right away, just because we could get hit with the duress. This is where Repurposing Bay is such a nice card for us, because we're able to like go find that synthesizer if we need it. Well, thankfully, next turn we'll actually get to kind of do both now with Fabrication Foundry found. One of the best parts about playing white, I had been a big advocate of synthesizer playing blue-black because you kind of needed that mana. But do we even go for Repurposing Bay, or do we just play the Collector's Vault, to be honest? Take the land, go for the vault. If this resolves, we're going to make a lot of value. One of the cool parts about Repurposing Bay is the fact that you can even get it started on the treasure token and go grab 1 mana permanents. Which is why we do play 1 mana artifacts outside of the Enigma Jewel. It has to be team or big stuff, I imagine. Maybe there's a counter spell in waiting. Let's activate here. I'll get rid of Spring Loaded Trap, which is fine for now. Ice Stone Weak Stone is a nice solid card to pick up here. I have enough mana to play both of these and activate the Repurposing Bay, so we'll give that a shot, I think. In case it's a counter spell, we're going to go for this here. We'll have the 3 mana to pay, but 3 steps ahead isn't available. Just negate. Okay. Here. This down. And now we lost Repurposing Bay to copy of negate, which like a little part of me thought there's domain with the Surveil land, but it feels like big Roxanne if I had to guess. It could still be domain, but I just don't see it. I'm not going to activate the Vault right now, I don't think. Ice Stone Weak Stone is too good of a card. Rides In is a card that I'm willing to shuffle away. That's for sure. here into draw 2. There's a synthesizer that I get to now put onto the battlefield. A scry, neither of those are necessarily good or enticing at all. And then a little Thran Spider action. Then we can activate this, get another draw, probably pitch our Market Gnome as it doesn't really do us a lot of good here. Demo field can also blow up the Everywhere land. If that starts to become a problem, it looks like it's a Doppelgang deck. Can also be an issue, of course. Activate here. Although, alright, well, if that sticks, I feel pretty positive about my game plan. Negate's possible. This also makes cards uncounterable. Please use this. That's exactly what we want. This resolves. Our spells are uncounterable. Return. What? Okay. We fire off the wrong spell. What? Sure. I have no attacking creatures. I think we meant to throw a negate on the stack and maybe throw a card a little too quick out there, you know what I'm saying? But okay. Nice. We move on. My opponent is first. Turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, maybe turn 3. We'll try it. 1, 2. I mean, I have a play to make on all 3 turns. It's just whether or not we're against super aggro or whatever it may be. Kind of one of the downfalls on some of your hands, but Spring-Loaded Trap's pretty good draw. You play quite a bit of removal. We just didn't happen to have it in this hand. This could be a counter spell of some kind. Thankfully, we draw an extra land anyway, so we're not too worried about it. Or it could be Esper Pixie, and there's not just been a thing worth targeting, and that's exactly what it is. Spring-Loaded Trap can go for now. I want to put in my Simulacrum Synthesizer because I love it so much. And let's do this. Go ahead and do this. Now we can monitor our top cards. Yes, sir. Honestly, one of my favorite parts about Synthesizer against this deck specifically, a lot of times, as long as they can't this town the Synthesizer and then duress it out of our hand, of course, is one of the best parts about it. Or Jace mill me, because Jace is apparently played in their Magic the Gathering deck. Sure. What? Why do you play Jace? Feels... Never didn't have it, dude. Never didn't have it. Oh, if they know what just happened to them, I'd be molding. They don't know. I'll leave this on top because it can technically exile the Pixie. But obviously that's not entirely what we're here for. They can play the momentum break, but we can make a fish in response or sacrifice, right? Yeah, we can make a fish in response, which is great.
I will clear.
Take another draw, which totally makes sense. We're down to 43 cards, so we got to be a little quick about this. Make a fish. Oh, don't you worry. Your speed's going up, brother. Fish down. Construct inbound. Momentum breaker number 2. Please send help. My opponent's bullying me. Mari's Vault. They could hit my last card in my hand, but I think free spells are also too good not to do. Yeah, I think free spells are too good. Discover Repurposing Bay. Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with that. All right, go ahead. I have 4 10/10s now. A plus, don't even target. Oh, wow, you're playing Legion's Dash. That's pretty cool. You have a way to make me discard this last card? No? Okay. That's good news for us, team. Last Casket can get rid of that. Braided Net's also just as good. Raiding that. Uncounterable. Put a pawns on their upkeep so their Jace can stop being activated. Then I guess I'll go for Glass Casket here. We have a cool trick in case they try to Legions of Ashes again, which is nice. Oh, you're this towning that? That's fine with me. So we're gonna lose this to a momentum break, I guess. I'm gonna hold for my cool play here. In turn, on their upkeep, we'll do something. Didn't exile my synthesizer, by the way, but there were 4 10/10s in play, so they didn't really have a choice. In turn, on upkeep, target there. Doesn't allow Jace to be activated because it says target non-land permanent, so that's always very nice. Now, the problem is with Momentum Breaker, you have to play them twice. Oh, sure, I guess. Alright. 1 black mana. Are we hoping we have enough here? No, they just give up. Okay. Cool. Nice. I'd also give up, I guess. Alright. My opponent goes first. It's the Dan. We'll keep. Ooh, we're in trouble. Okay. You get to the snare, so I have to play this. Maybe find a land. Need to somehow get to this, or find a 2-mana removal spell, which might not happen regardless. We'll see, and that's not even guaranteed now with white revealed. This is by far going to be the hardest situation we have to face. I think we're pretty positive against most matchups. I think on the draw against the best on the play deck, like put on paper in a very long time, is kind of going to do us in to some degree. Now, I want to play the Fabrication Foundry, but I almost feel like it's Enigma Jewel instead, because the Enigma Jewel enters tapped. That allows me to activate my Collector's Vaults later if we actually get there, but the problem is, like, this is 6 damage at minimum. If they monster rage it, I'm just going to go ahead and concede. There's not really a whole lot of reason to play the game out, because then we'll just end up meeting a burn spell. Or even like Ethereal Armor here is going to be probably tough enough. But this is definitely going to be by far the considered auto loss, outside of maybe, I guess, Azorius Omniscience. That deck seems pretty tough. There's obviously some kind of hard toss-up matchups. The white gets saved, but they had to use the red. Oh, nice Monstrous Rage. The only problem is I still don't think I can keep up here. Down to 9. That can't be used. Raiding that is a reoccurring threat, but I think we just have to snare here, and the worst part is I think it has to be this. But that's what, 4 damage on board, no spells currently cast. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna save his time. I'm moving on. There's no point in staying here. Like, I feel like this is pretty cut and dry that we're gonna lose this game. Just no 2-drop like Glass Casket or any type of thing like that to really get us off the ground. And the Surveil land ended up being a little too awkward, so let's move on. All right, back on the play. We're guaranteed to hit our 3rd land here. And even outside of that, we might even play the Vault instead, so we'll see. Actually, it's probably supposed to be play Clayfire Bricks. It's just so hard with like the extra draw. No, it's probably this, right? Why would I do the other route? And there's Rides In, the card I needed last game. But we're going to do Collector's Vault. And the reason why we do Collector's Vault is because we can always play this next turn and make the land. We can also make a treasure right now. All right, we're against Mill. Sure. Rides In's probably bad. Because it's... You're not a vehicle, right? I didn't think so. Synthesizer, why they're tapped. We get to put a Mightstone Weakstone on top, which they'll mill over. next turn. Kind of force them to do it now, but we can also activate our Collector's Vault before they do it. Second one, okay. We're just big mill gamers, huh? Why do I keep activating that? Let's fire this off. Oh, they let me draw it. Okay. It's pretty sick. Pretty sick of you, not gonna lie. Play this. Play Repurposing Bay. Feels pretty good. Here. L2. A synthesizer. Repurposing Bay. Kind of getting our deck build up here a bit. Here. We have 3 cards. Is it 1 or 2? I think it's 2. Yeah, so they can put me up to 5 cards, but I have lethal on board. So they're going to have to deal with my board, and then I obviously get to activate more artifacts and things like that. Discover 5. Fantastic hit. Now, like, I have super lethal on board, obviously. But temporary lockdown can kind of absorb a lot of this. They have Judgment also deals with a lot of it, but that puts some mana down. Puts us exactly where we want to be. So I think it's just go ahead and turn this on, I believe. Or we do it like this. We don't want to really put any more extra cards in there. Cast this. Construct. And just pretty much every turn, I'm going to take advantage of this and just, again, not any permanent. We can also, I guess, put that in hand. We also get to the point that we can go get our, oh, unless we ran out. I think we have one more snare. I could be wrong. All right, Sunfall it is. Another tap out situation by our opponent, of course. And then now it's what? It sacrifice Collector's Vault, just go get a snare maybe, or just make more constructs. Just let them figure out the game from there. Yeah, because we can do Braided Net, tap them, but that doesn't really solve any problem. Or we do Worldwaker Helm, but I think it's just Synthesizer here. And now we just ask them how many times they would like to run it. And I can play land. I can activate this. Discarding land, I guess. Honestly, I guess we can just grab the snare and then absorb one of these. There. Construct. 2 more constructs. Just again, over and over again. We're going to present so many things. I'll put that in hand, and obviously this feels like a card I should just cast. But this specifies whenever I cast an artifact or a creature that it makes me a construct, in which that matters a ton. Now they do that. They can activate this because I also have more lands than them. But we can pretty much go way over the top of this. So Glass Casket here. We only need 2 of our creatures to ever make contact. Our spells are uncounterable. So here, absorb this. Go ahead and do this. Again, spells are uncounterable. Does not matter. Unless they have 2 bounce spells. In a Dream, No More Lies. We had that entirely covered thanks to kind of the very quick acceleration that we had with the like Enigma Jewel right into doing exactly what we want. They tapped out immediately for us. We played a Synthesizer, got it on board. They tapped out pretty much again. Holding a No More Lies at some point was never going to catch up with them. Getting this monument down early was their game plan. And then turn after turn after turn, we just put lethal on the stack. It just goes to show how crazy this deck can actually get against these control matchups. Because once again, here's a Worldwaker Helm. Look, you know, it's kind of one of those situations. And with the Vault, we'll always find an artifact to play over and over. With that said, we move on. All right, we go first. We have like a weird hand in comparison to what we have had. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one a shot. I I think. No Enigma Jewel, no Synthesizer, no Birthing Pod, whatever the card's called. I've called it Birthing Pod so much now that, well, there's a Synthesizer. Never mind, we're cheating. Mono Black, maybe. Okay. Mono Black struggles with artifact decks, so we play a Synthesizer and we call it a day. Demo field might be fine, I guess. I think we can find better. They go for probably Unholy Annex, I would assume. Then we both get to play this super fun game. Now I get to exile that, which is very cool. And make a construct, which I like a lot. Or we can hold up rides in for stuff later, but we'll get rid of that now. Make a construct. I have a little 3/3. Cut down, can't get it. Nowhere to run currently can, which they sometimes play. But yeah, I mean, you just turn one of the best, maybe if you don't think Mono Black's the best deck, one of the more popular decks, at least in my kind of, like when I play a lot, I always, every session I run into a Mono Black player at some point probably. And we just turn one of those matchups into like a free win. As hard as like Azorius combo is to beat, they have the same problem with us a lot of times. So it feels the same because Go for the Throats are dead. Cut downs are typically dead. And that's 7 to 8 cards in their library. If we have a Synthesizer online, most likely they'll never get a creature through because, like, if they don't play something super threatening here, well, here's a second Synthesizer, make another construct I'll scry to again. And if it's a land, maybe I even go for my Stone Weakstone, but that feels like wasted value. But with Rides and a card that I overlooked because it was 5 mana, and, you know, kind of that, it's that hidden common card at 5 mana. I'm like, that's a draft card. I'm not reading it. But no, it's 2 mana. That gives us it's a good answer to a lot of things, I guess. But that said, on to the outro. We feel so back, and I feel so happy that I get to finally play this deck in a way that just feels good overall. Also, by the way, this is for your information, FYI, if you would. If you own a copy of Synthesizer of any kind right now, and it's kind of like, oh, I opened that in a draft pack or something. These things are $60 USD, and the other art is $100+ USD. Maybe consider selling that if you don't want it, and it's just collecting dust in the corner. Just for your information, I acquired my 4 copies. I actually have 5 copies of this card. But I acquired the alternate border art of it when they were like, I opened like 2 of them. And then I acquired the other 2 for like $15 to $20 a piece. Because it was a card I loved. Like, I liked the card a lot, so I got them. Yesterday, at the store, they're just like, hey, you know that card you opened up? $110 a piece now. I might have less Synthesizers tomorrow. I'm not playing it standard. I'm getting rid of it. Like, it is what it is. But outside of that, I think this card's insane. I love Repurposing Bay. I think this card's so good. I think it gives us free Synthesizers, which we've had problems with in these type of decks. It's like we're weirdly all in, but we're not all in, if that makes sense. Where typically we can only kind of win. It's like the Roots deck. If you don't have a Roots, Insidious Roots, it feels like you can't win the game from your strategy. But that kind of feels the same with this artifact deck, at least from the past. But with Repurposing Bay, that no longer feels like the case. Because now you need this and any 2-mana artifact or even 1-mana artifact that you can chain into finding the Synthesizer for free. So it always feels like you'll have one every game. Whereas before, like, when I play like Raise the Past, for example, I'll get through the top 30 or just get to the top 30 and never find a Raise the Past. Whereas if that happens with Synthesizer, it's brutal. Now, if there are 7 copies on the bottom of my library and I can't find them, then so be it. I guess I lose that game. It's bound determined for me to lose. But hopefully that's what Famari's Vault can help save us from a lot of times. But yeah, the deck operated incredibly well today. We ended up playing 6 games and winning 5, going 5-1 against aggro. I felt like the aggro match felt pretty unwinnable. But then I also forgot that we saw no copies of this. We didn't get to really block with this. We didn't find Glass Casket or Spring-Loaded Trap. So, I mean, we do have some removal. It's not the greatest removal in the world, right? It's a little bit whatever, but at least we have some. And then we had temporary, like, stop cards, like Braided Net, things like that, or like a Mightstone, Weakstone, but that's a little too expensive to rely on against Mono Red. So, Ride's End probably needs to go up a copy. Whether that means Mightstone, Weakstone needs... This is probably what I would do. Because Mightstone, Weakstone is good. Like, very good. But a lot of times we play it to draw and then it becomes this immediately. And I never really want another one. Because we don't really want to go any higher than that, right? About the cap is really 1,000 Mood Smitty that I would want. And other than that, I think everything is fine. Because now, if we think of it that way, this is kind of what our curve looks like. It looks a lot more like... ready to battle the early game, and not playing Elsewhere Smite and stuff like that is nice whenever you have this card to deal it itself. Now, some cards have Vigilance like the land, but at that point, if they spend 5 mana or 4 mana to activate the land and attack you with it, I feel like we can fully cast this card, right? But with that said, that's going to do it for me today. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.